fought for the liberation of their people from oppression. Moses, a prophet in biblical history, led the Israelis out of slavery in Egypt and guided them towards the promised land, advocating for justice and divine law. Similarly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of Indian Constitution, dedicated his life to the upliftment of the oppressed Dalits, the struggle against discrimination, and the pursuit of a just society, inspiring generations. Sir was also former chairman of the University Grants Commission. Currently, he is the founding chairman of the Federation of Organizations for Secularism, Social Justice and Democracy, bringing together 80 social organizations under its banner. Additionally, he serves as the chief editor for the newsletter Mukti Vimarsh. I request Dr. V.S. Gedam to Thank you, sir. Thank you. Today's special guest, Engineer Arvind Gedam, is the president of BANAC in this role. With 35 years of dedicated service in Department of Water.
आज के हमारे इस जो लेक्चर सीरीज है मोजेस से डॉक्टर अंबेडकर, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर सुंदर सर जो यूजीसी के पूर्व चेयरमैन रहे हैं, अरविंद गेडाम सर जो बानाई के अध्यक्ष हैं, और जयंत इंग्रे सर और डॉक्टर रवि लक्ष्मण सर, आप सबका तहे दिल से स्वागत है। पार्टिसिपेट करें, बानाई का भी रोल हो तो बानाई। और थोड़ा सर को रिक्वेस्ट किया कि जब हमें पता चला कि प्रोफेसर लॉरेंस सिमल सर नागपुर आ रहे हैं तो हमने रिक्वेस्ट किया कि सर आप उनका लेक्चर हम यहाँ भी रखें। हालांकि सिम्बॉयज स्कूल का लेक्चर था तो मैंने कहा कि सर हम भी रखें, क्योंकि लॉरेंस सिमल सर के बारे में इसके बाद में इंट्रोडक्शन होने वाला है, लेकिन बहुत शॉर्ट में मैं आपको उनके बारे में बताता हूँ कि प्रोफेसर लॉरेंस सिमल सर ब्रांडेस विद्यापीठ जो है यूएस का बोस्टन में वहां पर है, और पिछले है उसके ऊपर जो कानून आया है इसका सबसे बड़ा श्रेय जो कानून जो आया है उसका प्रोफेसर लॉरेंस सिमल सर को है। युवाओं को होता था वो रुक गया है कानून के जरिए। दूसरी इंपॉर्टेंट बात कि भारत से लगभग 100 से अधिक विद्यार्थी और अमेरिका में जाके वो पढ़े, और इसके लिए वो हमेशा यहाँ के युवाओं को प्रेरित करते रहते हैं। और इम्पोर्टेंट बात यह है कि डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर के ऊपर हर 2 वर्ष के बाद वो इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस का आयोजन अमेरिका में करते हैं, और ये सबसे बड़ा एक महत्वपूर्ण उनका योगदान भी है। पिछले वर्ष मुझे भी जाने का मौका मिला था, सर ने मुझे भी इनवाइट किया था थोड़ा सर के माध्यम से, और वहां पर चीफ जस्टिस उस वक्त के थे वो भी वहां पर आए थे, समूचे देश दुनिया से लोग वहां पर आए थे, तो काफी अच्छा आयोजन वहां पे वो हुआ था। तो और धन्यवाद अदा करता हूँ। तो आज का प्रयोजन यही था कि इतने बड़े व्यक्ति इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे अम्बेडकर जब नागपुर पे आते हैं तो आप अपना कार्य है उसको।
सबको नमस्कार, जय हिंद। मैं सबको जो भी मैं 2 मिनट में जिस विषय पर ही आपसे बात करेंगे उसका बैकग्राउंड आपको थोड़ा सा देता हूँ। जो सब्जेक्ट है उनका था मोजेस टू अम्बेडकर स्टोरी ऑफ लिबरेशन थियोलॉजी। ये जो सब्जेक्ट है ये डॉक्टर लॉरेंस साइमन ब्रांडेस यूनिवर्सिटी में लिबरेशन थियोलॉजी ये जो विचार है लैटिन अमेरिका 1960 में आया और उसका मतलब इतना ही था उस वक्त की जो डिफरेंट प्रीस्ट थे चर्च में, उन्होंने ये कहा कि रिलीजन के जो विचार है उसका वो रिलीजन में तो लिबरेशन थियोलॉजी के माध्यम से मुक्ति हो गरीबों की, मार्जिनल सेक्शन। ये नया विचार था क्रिश्चियनिटी में, लेकिन उन्होंने पद्धति जो जब समाज वो डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर ने जो बुद्धिज्म दिया है, बुद्धिज्म का फूल है, इसकी वो कोशिश करेंगे। दूसरी बात है कि आप यदि बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर के वॉल्यूम पढ़े तो उसमें ठीक 2 लेक्चर है बाबा साहेब के जो उसके प्रॉब्लम पे है। और ये इंटरव्यू है जो इजराइल की जो
Sustainable International Development (SID) in 1993 and served as its director for 20 years through August 2014. In that time, SID grew to become the largest development studies program in the United States with 200 graduate students from over 50 countries annually and recognized globally for its innovative interdisciplinary curriculum. He also serves as co-chair of the PhD in Global Health and Development. Dr. Simon served as the Associate Dean for Academic Planning from 2003 until September 2009 and created new degree programs in international health policy and management among others. His research and teaching center on critical issues in global poverty, and he is writing on psychological and cultural barriers to social change and on the role of social movements in development. Currently, Simon leads research teams on 2 main problems in development: the nexus between social exclusion and poverty within countries and community adaptations for mitigating the effect of climate change among vulnerable populations. In 2007, he took a leave from Brandis to serve as the senior advisor on global poverty to the executive director of the Google Foundation. NGOs look critically at aid and development policy. His research efforts in 1981 on the impact on the US financed E.I. Salvador agrarian reform prompted a major investigation by the New York Times that resulted in congressional hearings. Since then, he has lectured widely in the United States, Europe and Asia on problems of landlessness and agrarian repression. Dr. Simon created the American Jewish World Service (AJWS) in 1984 and was its founding president until June 1989. During his AJWS years,
the ancient Hebrews, of course, as well as Christian, especially Roman Catholic, Buddhism, and in a subsidiary role, Hindus who sought to break away from Hinduism and caste. This is not meant, none of my comments tonight are meant to proselytize in any way or to demean any faith. So let me begin by saying what is not a covenantal community. As you know, the title is From Moses to Bedkar, the Story of Liberation Theology. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about the concept of a covenantal community, and I'll explain that. But so first let me try to explain what is not a covenantal community. As you know far, far, far better than I could possibly, a caste system, of course, is an ancient form of social distinction among hereditary classes, with some inheriting exclusive privileges sanctioned by law, custom, or religion. While belief in the purity of lineage may be a source of pride in a cultural heritage, it may also lead to illusions of superiority and even lead to genocide, as in the Holocaust that befell the Jews of Europe at the hands of the master race. The indigenous peoples of the Americas, pseudospeciation is a term first used by the American psychologist Erik Erikson to describe marginalized groups considered so inferior that they have become distinct subpar species in the eyes of the oppressors. They become the other. The Rohingyas of Myanmar have lived under threat of expulsion. Blacks in apartheid states of Africa lived as a pseudo-species providing cheap labor in forced off Arab lands. The Jews of Imperial Russia were confined to the Pale of Settlement, where most lived in the poverty of their little towns, known as shtetls, subjected to routinized violence and limited to Jewish quotas for education. The Roman Catholic Church, resurgent community, the Roma people of Europe, and the African American may live in multi-faith democracies, but racism against them persists. These are all caste-like social oppressions, often based on the origin myths of diverse peoples and faiths. Thank you. Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu may have been the most recognizable and beloved figure internationally, yet many members of the South African clergy risked their lives to oppose apartheid. Rabbi Ben Isaacson was a modern-day population. It required a soul-searching overhaul of their beliefs. And then a quote from the South African Truth and Reconciliation Committee report of 1988, briefly. It said, some of the major Christian churches gave their